Sophie Bennett had never been late to a wedding in her life. But today, the universe decided to test her resolve. Her rideshare canceled at the last minute. The florist delivered the bouquets to the wrong address, and now, clutching her heels in one hand and bouquet in the other, she sprinted toward the vineyard's glass chapel with 5 minutes to spare and a heart beating out of rhythm. She crashed through the side door, breathless, just as the wedding planner shot her a death glare. Sophie mouthed an apology, brushing hair from her flushed face. Her dress, a pale lilac gown with layers of chiffon, had a red wine stain splattered near the waist. Courtesy of a waiter she collided with during the rehearsal dinner. "Perfect. You made it," whispered Emily, the bride and Sophie's college roommate, rushing over in silk and satin perfection. "Barely," Sophie panted, trying to smooth her dress and dignity. Emily glanced at the stain, then at Sophie's panicked expression. "Don't worry. No one will even notice." But someone did. Nathan Cross noticed everything. He stood by the bar, tall and quiet, nursing a glass of something expensive. His navy suit was tailored like it belonged at a fashion spread, and the silver tie clip glinted under the warm evening lights. He wasn't supposed to be interesting. He was just another rich friend of the groom. But something about the way he observed the world, calm, detached, amused, made Sophie feel like she'd been caught off guard. Later that evening, during the reception, she tripped over a speaker cord while trying to refill her drink. The glass slipped, flipped, and showered her already doomed dress with more crimson. Applause erupted. Sophie bowed dramatically, cheeks burning. Nathan chuckled from his corner. Their eyes met, and just like that, a crack formed in the polished armor he wore. When Sophie finally sat down to rest, she was nursing her third glass of white wine and a bruised ego. That's when Nathan appeared, holding a napkin and wearing a crooked smile. "You seem to be having a complicated relationship with beverages tonight," he said, handing her the napkin. Sophie took it, raising an eyebrow. "Thanks. I aim to leave a mark everywhere I go." "I'd say you're succeeding." They exchanged names, small talk, and dry jokes. Nathan asked about the stain. Sophie asked if he was always this charming to women in distress. "Only the ones wearing wine," he replied. The wedding blurred into golden lights and soft music. Nathan and Sophie danced once, just once, but it was enough. Her hand fit too easily in his. His laugh made her feel too seen. By the end of the night, she was sitting on a bench under the string lights, heels off, mascara slightly smudged, and Nathan beside her, rolling up his sleeves. "You look tired," he said. "I'm reconsidering my life choices." "Well, next time you should choose champagne." She laughed, covering her mouth. "Next time I'll skip the clumsiness and the drama." "I hope not," he said softly. "It's the most interesting part." Silence fell between them, heavy in the way it gets when you don't want the moment to end. Then Emily called from across the courtyard. "Sophie, come take photos." Sophie stood reluctantly. "I guess this is goodbye." Nathan stood too. "It doesn't have to be." She paused. "You want my number or something?" she asked, not quite teasing. He pulled out his phone. "Only if you promise not to throw any more wine." Sophie smirked and typed her number in. Nathan didn't call the next day. Sophie waited, pretending she wasn't waiting. She cleaned her apartment 3 times, reorganized her spice rack, even started a new sketch for an urban community center she'd been commissioned to design. But every time her phone buzzed, her heart tripped over itself. By day 3, she gave up. "Figures," she muttered, tossing her phone onto the couch. Charming, mysterious, too good to be true wedding guest turns out to be exactly that. She didn't hear from him for 2 weeks. Then one Monday morning, Sophie walked into the boardroom at Whitaker & Company, her architecture firm, and nearly dropped her coffee. There he was, Nathan Cross, standing in front of the projection screen, hands in pockets, talking strategy with James Whitaker like he owned the building. Her heart sank, then leapt, then sank again. Nathan's eyes met hers the second she entered the room, but there was no flicker of surprise, only the smallest lift at the corner of his lips. He knew. James beamed. Everyone, this is Nathan Cross. His company, Cross and Caldwell, is officially backing our Lexington Tower project. Big money, big opportunity. Nathan, this is our lead designer, Sophie Bennett. Ah, Nathan said smoothly, offering his hand. Miss Bennett and I met briefly at a mutual friend's wedding. Sophie's fingers brushed his in a polite handshake. Briefly, she echoed. That entire morning felt like a fever dream. She presented her design plans while Nathan watched, silent and unreadable. When she mentioned her structural adjustments to the rooftop garden, he raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. After the meeting, she followed him into the hallway. You knew, she said. I did. And you didn't think to mention you were about to become my boss. I'm not your boss. I'm just an investor. Sophie crossed her arms. You disappeared, Nathan. He looked at her, really looked, and she saw something behind the cool exterior. Regret? Conflict? I thought about calling you, he said. I even typed a message. More than once. And he hesitated, and I wasn't sure if I was walking toward something, or if I was just running from something else. Her breath caught. So which was it? I'm still figuring that out. Sophie turned away, unsure whether to scream, or cry, or laugh. Well, figure it out fast, because I have a deadline. That week was a whirlwind of tension. Nathan started showing up to meetings. He gave feedback, always professional, always focused on the project. But outside those doors, things were anything but neutral. One afternoon, she found him in the studio reviewing her 3D models. He didn't say a word at first, just studied her designs slowly. You're talented, he said finally. Is that feedback or a compliment? Both. She sighed. What do you want from me, Nathan? He turned to her, eyes darker than she remembered. Maybe I just want another chance to get it right. Before she could reply, her phone rang, a reminder for a site visit. She grabbed her bag and brushed past him. Don't follow me, she said, without looking back, unless you're serious. But he did follow. Not to the site, not literally, but every time Sophie turned a corner at the office, he was there. When she got coffee, he was behind her in line. When she pitched ideas, he supported them, subtly but consistently. Then one Friday, after a long, difficult client meeting, she found a note on her desk. Dinner? No pressure. Just you, me, and a table that doesn't wobble. Nathan. She stared at the handwriting. It was careful, slightly angled. Just like him. She went. They met at a quiet Italian place downtown. Nathan held her chair, asked about her day, listened like she mattered. Over pasta and red wine, no spills this time. Sophie finally asked, why now? Nathan didn't deflect. Because the night of the wedding, I saw something in you I couldn't stop thinking about. Then I got scared. I've made a life out of control. Schedules. Order. No one gets close unless I let them. And you. I ruined that. He smiled. You made it real. Dinner became a habit. Not every night, but enough for people at the office to start noticing. Nathan and Sophie tried to keep it professional until it wasn't. Until shared glances in meetings turned into brushed hands in elevators. Until laughter over wine turned into conversations that stretched until morning. And then, one night, Nathan showed up at Sophie's door in the rain. No suit, no car, just him. I canceled a $20 million pitch, he said, soaked and breathless, because I couldn't stop thinking about you. Sophie opened the door, heart pounding. "You're dripping water on my carpet," she said. He smiled. "Then maybe I should stay long enough to dry off." They didn't sleep together that night. They sat on the couch, legs tangled under a blanket, drinking tea and talking about everything. Her dreams, his regrets, the weight of always needing to be perfect. "I was raised to believe love was a weakness," Nathan said quietly. "That emotions cloud judgment. But you make me want to feel everything." Sophie didn't reply. She just reached for his hand. From that night forward, there was no denying what they were. But the world wasn't kind to lovers from different galaxies. One tabloid photo, one blurry shot of Nathan holding Sophie's hand outside a bookstore, exploded into speculation. Who was she? Was this serious? Was she after his money? Sophie read the headlines in silence. Nathan paced. "I'll shut it down," he promised. "Every article, every reporter. You can't control all of it." "I can try." But the damage was done. Anonymous messages, nasty emails. Someone slashed her tires outside her building. Nathan moved her in with him that week. "This isn't protection," he told her. "It's home, if you want it." Sophie looked around the modern penthouse with its floor-to-ceiling windows, cold concrete, and distant skyline. It wasn't her style. But the moment Nathan handed her a cup of tea and sat beside her on the floor, she realized maybe it could be. They made it work. She added books and candles. He learned to live without a personal chef. They shared toothbrush cups and grocery lists. Nathan started reading fiction badly. Sophie taught him how to make grilled cheese without setting off the fire alarm. Then one morning, Sophie got an email from her dream architecture magazine. They wanted to feature her Lexington Tower rooftop concept. She ran into Nathan's office, breathless. "They picked me. They actually picked me." He stood, eyes wide, and pulled her into his arms. "I told you," he whispered. "You were always meant to be seen." That night, they celebrated with cheap champagne and pizza on the balcony. Sophie wore his hoodie. Nathan couldn't stop staring. "Marry me," he said suddenly. Sophie laughed. "What? I'm serious." He leaned closer. "I don't want to wait. Not 5 years. Not 5 minutes." Her eyes shimmered. "Are you proposing with pizza breath?" "I can go brush." She cupped his face. "You don't need a ring to make this real." But she said yes anyway. They didn't want a big wedding. No luxury venue. No press. No guest list with 300 strangers and stiff champagne flutes. Just a meadow. Sophie found a spot on a weekend road trip. A field of tall grass framed by birch trees, kissed by wind and silence. Nathan stood barefoot, waiting by a small arch made of driftwood she designed herself. Sophie walked toward him in a lace dress she sewed by hand. It wasn't perfect, but it was her. They had 10 guests. No photographers. Emily officiated. And when Nathan slipped the simple gold band on her finger, the wind held its breath. "I promise," he said, voice shaking, "to build something with you that isn't made of concrete or glass, but time and trust." Sophie's vows were quiet. "You are the only thing I've never second-guessed." They danced under fairy lights strung between 2 trees. Nathan kissed her in front of the fire, whispering promises she'd remember on the hard days. The world outside felt far away, but the world had a way of intruding. 2 days later, a tabloid ran the headline: "Billionaire crossed marries unknown designer in secret ceremony." Paparazzi camped outside their building. Rumors swirled about prenups and breakups. Sophie refused to look. Nathan, for once, didn't try to fix it. He sat beside her on the couch and asked, Do you still feel married? Yes. Then nothing else matters. They moved again, this time to a house in the woods Sophie designed herself. Open spaces, warm wood, skylights that caught the stars. She added a swing on the porch. He added a grand piano, even though he couldn't play. They filled the place with quiet rituals. Morning coffee on the steps, notes on the fridge, late-night dancing in the kitchen. Nathan wrote her love letters and tucked them into books she hadn't read yet. She painted a mural in the nursery, even before they knew they were expecting. When Sophie found out she was pregnant, she told him by leaving a tiny pair of socks on his pillow. Nathan stared at them, speechless. "You okay?" she asked, heart pounding. He looked up, eyes full. "I've never been more." He was there for every appointment. Held her hair during morning sickness. Talked to her belly like it could talk back. Sophie cried when she felt the first kick. Nathan recorded it like it was music. When their daughter Lila was born, Nathan didn't stop crying for an hour. "She looks like you," he whispered, holding her. "She looks like us," Sophie said. They didn't sleep much. They forgot to shower. But in the chaos, they found something deeper than romance, a rhythm. Nathan read business emails at 2 a.m. with Lila on his chest. Sophie learned to sketch floor plans with a baby monitor humming beside her. They made mistakes, argued over bottle brands and nap schedules, but they never went to bed angry. They built their family the same way Sophie built her designs, with intention. Years passed like pages of a well-worn book. Nathan and Sophie built not just a life, but rhythm, a language of glances and touches and laughter that didn't need translation. Their home, nestled among the trees, echoed with Lila's footsteps, crayon murals, and bedtime songs sung off-key. One spring morning, Sophie stood at the easel in her studio while Lila, now 6, stacked blocks nearby. Nathan peeked in with a cup of coffee. "Your daughter just asked if she can build a castle in the kitchen." Sophie smiled. "Tell her to file a permit." He leaned in, kissed her temple. "It's already under review." That weekend, they visited the vineyard where they first met. The arch was still there. The string lights, though faded, still swayed in the breeze. "Remember when I ruined this dress?" Sophie said, lifting the edge of her flowing hem. "I tripped on a speaker cord and baptized myself in Merlot." Nathan took her hand. "That was the moment I knew." "Knew what?" "That you'd never be boring." They walked slowly between rows of grapevines, while Lila chased butterflies ahead of them. At the far end of the field, Nathan stopped and pulled something from his pocket, a small velvet box. Sophie blinked. "Another ring?" "No," he said, opening it to reveal a pendant, a gold charm etched with a tiny drawing of their home. "It's where you made me real." She didn't speak, just hugged him, long, tight, like she never wanted to let go. Later that year, Sophie was invited to speak at a global architecture forum. Her keynote? Designing for real life, how emotion shapes space. Nathan and Lila flew with her to London. Backstage, Sophie felt the old nerves creeping in. "What if I mess up?" she asked, smoothing her blazer. Nathan touched her cheek. "Then you'll show them what honesty looks like." Her speech was a triumph. Raw, warm, unscripted. She talked about motherhood, about mess, about designing spaces that hold people, not just furniture. The audience rose to their feet when she finished. That night, as the city glowed below their hotel balcony, Nathan poured wine and toasted, "To the clumsy bridesmaid who taught me how to live." She clinked her glass to his, "To the man who never let go." They kissed like it was the first time. A year later, Sophie found herself pregnant again. This time, it wasn't a surprise, it was a choice. Made under starlight and quiet prayers. Theo was born in the middle of a thunderstorm, his cries stronger than the sky. Lila held her baby brother with reverence. He smells like clouds. Nathan cried again. They slowed everything down. No projects. No conferences. Just long walks in the woods and pancakes on Wednesdays. Their house smelled like crayons and cinnamon and something sacred. Sophie painted. Nathan wrote. They took photos, framed handprints, and wrote letters to their kids they wouldn't open until they were 18. On their 10th anniversary, Nathan handed Sophie a journal. Inside 10 letters, one for each year of their marriage. She didn't make it past page 3 before sobbing into his shoulder. "You really love me," she whispered. "I always did, even when I didn't know how." In the end, their story wasn't about riches or resumes or dramatic confessions. It was about the quiet, the nights they fell asleep holding hands, the mornings they danced barefoot in the kitchen, the way he kissed her wrist when she was tired, the way she never stopped believing in him, even when he didn't believe it himself. Because love, real love, isn't always fireworks. Sometimes it's soft, persistent, fierce in its tenderness. And for Sophie and Nathan, it all started with a spill, a laugh, and a look that said, "You, I choose you, always."